5 friends disappeared at dawn in a remote gorge. No bodies, just footprints vanishing into thin air. A cabin burned with no survivor, no charred body, just his shoes left beside the fireplace, and a hiker's moving beacon flashed SOS repeatedly, but searchers never found him. Welcome to the 4th dimension. If you are fascinated about strange disappearances, missing person, and creepy stories, this channel is for you. The Disappearance at Raven Hollow, the lost hiking group of 2002. There were 5 of them that morning. College friends from Eugene who wanted one last fall hike before winter set in. They parked at the Raven Hollow trailhead just after sunrise, laughing, shouldering their packs, and joking about the ranger's warning pinned to the sign, unstable terrain beyond mile marker 6. The group, Daniel, Lucy, Troy, Evelyn, and Marcus, had hiked together for years. They weren't thrill seekers, just outdoorsy kids with cameras and flasks of cheap whiskey, the kind of people who thought ghosts and missing hikers were stories for tourists. By the next morning, all 5 were gone. Their families said the same thing later. It was impossible. Daniel was the responsible one, a volunteer firefighter, the kind who triple checks every tent stake. Lucy was cautious, terrified of bears. Marcus had left his little sister a voicemail that morning, promising to be home for dinner. The first sign of trouble came from another hiker named Karen Beal, who crossed paths with the group around noon. She later told police they looked a little uneasy. Lucy asked if the trail forked ahead. She swore she'd seen a second path that didn't appear on any map. Karen just shrugged it off. An hour later, Karen heard voices behind her calling her name. The strange thing was, she'd never told them her name. When searchers began combing the area 3 days later, they found the group's tent still standing in a clearing off the main trail. Inside were their bags, food, even Lucy's journal. The last entry read, "The forest sounds wrong tonight. It's like someone's whispering under the wind." 10 miles deeper into the ravine, the search team found something worse. A pair of boots standing upright in the mud, Marcus's, perfectly aligned, as if he'd stepped out of them. Rescue teams spent weeks grid searching every ridge. Drones, dogs, divers, nothing. But as November came and snow began to fall, rangers reported hearing strange voices on the two-way radios at night. Not static, actual conversation fragments. One voice, faint and distant, repeating the same phrase, "We took the wrong path." The mountain was sealed off for winter after that. Officially, the case remains unresolved disappearance due to inclement conditions. Unofficially, everyone who's ever worked Raven Hollow says the same thing. The forest doesn't want to be mapped. Last year, a new trail camera was placed there by a group of local hikers. When they checked the footage, most of it was fog and movement until one frame. A woman in a red jacket, standing among the trees, her face blurred but eerily similar to Lucy's missing poster from 2002. Some think it's a hoax, others think it's proof. But every October, around the same week they vanished, campers claim to hear laughter drifting through the fog, 5 voices, faint but familiar, followed by a whisper just beneath the wind, "Stay on the marked trail." And if you listen long enough, you'll swear one of them says your name. The Burning Cabin Mystery, Travis Reed, 1999, Appalachian Woods. Travis Reed was 31 when he vanished, a carpenter, hunter, and self-proclaimed woodsman philosopher. He lived simply, worked seasonally, and spent his downtime restoring an old family cabin deep in the Appalachian foothills of western North Carolina. The cabin sat miles off any paved road, reachable only by a rough trail that twisted through the pines and laurel thickets like a vein into the heart of the forest. He inherited it from his grandfather, who'd built it in the 1940s. Locals said the old man used to talk about strange lights in the woods, whispers that echoed from the holler after sundown, and an old thing that walked the creek beds at night, breathing like a deer but never showing its face. Travis, though, was skeptical. He loved the stories but laughed at superstition. "The forest doesn't haunt people," he once told a friend. "It just mirrors what's already inside you." In late October of 1999, Travis took a week off to finish the cabin. He told his girlfriend, "I'm bringing it back to life. Just me, a hammer, and the fire." Those were his last known words to anyone. On November 3rd, smoke was spotted rising from the ridge. A hiker named Daniel Lowe saw it while crossing a fire tower trail at dusk, a thick, dark plume spiraling above the tree line. He reported it to the local ranger station. By the time responders arrived the next morning, the cabin was nothing but smoldering ash and warped metal hinges. But what made the case strange wasn't the fire. It was what they didn't find. There was no body, not even bone fragments, teeth, or anything organic that could have survived the blaze. Investigators scoured the debris for days. The fire had been hot enough to melt parts of Travis's old cast iron stove, but still, human remains almost always leave traces. Here, there was nothing. And yet, two objects stood out. The first, Travis's work boots, sitting neatly side by side near what used to be the fireplace, not charred, not covered in soot, just placed there, as if he'd taken them off seconds before stepping somewhere else. The second, a half-melted flashlight, discovered 15 feet outside the cabin, pointed toward the forest. The fire department concluded the blaze was likely caused by a chimney spark or faulty flue, labeling it accidental. But the sheriff who arrived later, Deputy Gerald Wentz, wasn't convinced. If Reed burned, he said, there'd be something left. And if he didn't, then where the hell did he go? The following week, the search expanded. Bloodhounds traced a faint scent trail leading from the ashes into the woods. It went downhill for about half a mile before ending abruptly at a creek crossing. The dogs whined, circled, then froze as if confused. No scent on the other side. That same area had an odd feature, a patch of ground where the leaves were gone, as if scorched by something circular, about 6 feet wide. The soil underneath was black and brittle. When investigators touched it, it crumbled into dust that smelled faintly of ozone, like lightning after a storm. Travis's brother David visited the site a few days later. He brought an old camcorder and filmed everything, narrating as he went. Travis loved this place, he said, voice cracking. He said it felt alive, like the forest could breathe. When he reached the fireplace, he found something the investigators had missed, a small scrap of lined paper wedged under a stone. It was singed at the edges, but still legible. It read, "It's not the wind. It sounds like my name, over and over." That was the last line. David turned the footage over to authorities, but nothing ever came of it. The handwriting was confirmed to be Travis's, but the note's date was impossible to pin down. In 2001, a forest ranger hiking the same area stumbled upon something strange. A circle of stones arranged around a burnt patch of ground, almost like a ritual ring. In the center lay a single blackened log, and beside it, a boot print matching Travis's shoe size. But the soil was dry, and no other prints surrounded it. The impression was fresh, as if someone had pressed it there that very morning. Word spread, and soon the old superstitions resurfaced. Locals began calling the site Reed's Hollow. Some swore that on quiet nights, you could hear hammering in the distance, echoing faintly between the trees. Others said they'd seen a figure walking the ridgeline, carrying a lantern that flickered like flame but never gave off smoke. A group of paranormal investigators visited in 2005. They recorded faint audio inside the ruins, a low rhythmic knocking, and what one described as a deep inhale, like someone standing right behind you. When they played the tape back, a whisper overlapped the sound. "Take your shoes off." 2 decades later, the mystery remains unsolved. No remains, no conclusive evidence, just whispers and theories. Some say Travis died trying to fight the fire and was consumed entirely, though that defies fire science. Others claim he lost his mind in isolation, wandered barefoot into the woods, and perished somewhere unseen. But there's one detail often left out of official reports. Before the fire, a neighboring cabin owner, an old trapper named Clyde Burrows, swore he saw something strange the night before the blaze. Around 3 a.m., Clyde said he noticed a light moving between the trees near Travis's property. It wasn't firelight, he insisted. Too cold, too steady. Like someone walking with a lantern, only there wasn't no one holding it. He claimed he saw it drift right up to the cabin door, pause, and then vanish. Minutes later, the forest went quiet. Not a cricket, not an owl, just silence thick enough to feel. The next morning, the ridge was burning. Years later, hikers still come across odd things in that part of the Appalachian Trail. Bits of old metal that shouldn't have survived the fire, melted glass embedded in rock, a smell of smoke that lingers even after rain. And sometimes they find footprints, barefoot, deep in the mud, walking toward the creek, but never away from it. One camper in 2019 recorded what he thought was a crackling fire in the distance. When he followed the sound, he found only blackened stones arranged in a circle, and two boots sitting side by side beside them. The Silent Forest Signal, Milo Thompson, 2010, Pacific Northwoods. The Pacific Northwoods stretch across the upper corner of Washington like a dream that refuses to wake, vast, silent, and dripping with moss and fog. For most people, that silence is part of the beauty. For Milo Thompson, it became a tune. He was 27 years old, an amateur wildlife photographer from Portland who spent his weekends chasing mist, mountains, and solitude. Friends said he was obsessed with the sound of quiet, the hum before dawn, the stillness between raindrops. In late October of 2010, Milo drove north into the Olympic Peninsula to photograph the seasonal fog rolling through an area called Grapevine Ridge, a steep, forest-choked slope that was largely uncharted beyond old logging maps from the 1940s. He texted his roommate before losing service. "No signal soon. Should be back by Sunday. Beacon on just in case." That beacon, a standard PLB, personal locator beacon, would be the last trace anyone ever saw of him. 3 days later, the U.S. Forest Service received an unusual automated distress call pinging from Milo's registered beacon. The signal was intermittent but consistent, a coded SOS pulse repeating every 22 seconds. When teams triangulated its position, it appeared to be coming from deep within a sector of Grapevine known as Lot 12, a stretch of rewilded forest closed since 1972 after a massive landslide buried the old access road. Search and rescue launched immediately. But when the first team arrived, they found something deeply unsettling. The beacon signal was still flashing, but faint, bouncing between trees like an echo. They followed it through dense brush until nightfall, when they finally spotted a flicker of red light pulsing through the fog. But when they reached the source, it wasn't the beacon. It was a second signal, mounted to a tree trunk 10 feet high, old, weathered, and rusted through. A 1970s emergency flare lamp, still somehow blinking weakly, as though recently triggered. The coordinates didn't match the PLB's serial frequency, and somewhere beyond that light, faintly, came another flash. For 2 nights, rescuers tracked the moving SOS, each time thinking they were closing in, only for the signal to shift several hundred meters away. It was as if something was carrying it deeper. The forest there was suffocatingly thick, a labyrinth of fallen trees, sinkholes, and fog that made GPS practically useless. By dawn of the 3rd day, one searcher, Eli Garver, reported hearing what sounded like a man's voice calling "over here," followed by a sharp crack and silence. When they found Eli, he was crouched near a hollow cedar tree, visibly shaken. Inside the tree was Milo's backpack, dry despite the rain, untouched except for a single tear across the flap. His camera was missing, but his beacon sat inside the main pocket, still powered, still blinking SOS. There were no footprints leading away, no signs of an animal, no struggle, just the beacon, perfectly placed inside a hollow that smelled faintly of ozone and pine resin. When investigators examined the PLB, they discovered it had been activated manually. Someone had pressed the distress button, but the fingerprints on it didn't belong to Milo. They were smudged, partial, and strangely long, almost double the normal human fingertip length. That detail was quietly omitted from public reports. Still, the area was searched for 9 more days. Ground teams, drones, thermal imaging, nothing. Not a shoe print, not a scrap of clothing. But locals living near Grapevine claimed they began to see strange lights at night. Faint red and white strobes flickering through the trees, moving in patterns that seemed deliberate. Some said they resembled distress signals. One logger told police that every night around midnight, he could see the lights through the tree line, blinking the Morse for SOS over and over again, though when he walked toward them, they vanished. Months later, in early 2011, hikers discovered Milo's camera 30 miles north of the search grid, balanced neatly on a stone outcrop overlooking a ravine. The SD card was miraculously intact. It contained 142 photos, the last timestamped 10:42 p.m., October 23rd, 2 days after he was last heard from. The first 100 photos were typical: ferns, fog, deer tracks. But as they progressed, they became increasingly erratic: blurred motion, darkness, streaks of light across the frame. The final image showed something that investigators could never explain: a silhouette, tall and thin, standing at the edge of Milo's campfire light. Its outline was distorted, as if the air around it was vibrating. In its hand, or what passed for one, was a small red light, glowing faintly. Experts claimed it was lens flare. But when the photo was digitally brightened, a pattern appeared in the corner: 3 dots, then 3 dashes, then 3 dots again. SOS. To this day, hikers report strange malfunctions when passing through Lot 12. Radios short out, GPS freezes, phones loop with phantom alerts. And sometimes, only at night, the forest begins to pulse with faint light, rhythmic and timed like a heartbeat. Park officials have since blocked off the ridge entirely, citing landslide instability. But those who know the story call it the silent forest, and they warn that if you see a flashing red beacon in the trees, don't follow it, because whatever lives in Grapevine is still sending a signal. And some nights, that signal spells something new. SOS. Stay. Milo Thompson was never found. His beacon was sealed in evidence, where it continues, inexplicably, to blink every year on the anniversary of his disappearance. Even in the dark, the forest remembers.